Hey, Seth David here from the world famous Nerd Enterprises Incorporated, bringing to you another special screencast. This time we're talking about a spreadsheet formula. We're going to demonstrate this in Google Sheets called SUMIFS. Now, many of you know about SUMIF. That's a kind of simple one where you can look at a range and compare what's in that range to specified criteria and sum anything where the criteria matches, right? So if you have a list of different products and let's say order totals and you want to get the sum of all the total for a particular product, you can do a quick SUMIF to get that result. SUMIFS opens up a whole new world. In fact, in particular, in the example I'm going to give you in a minute, is especially in the financial modeling or forecasting scenario. So think about this. I have a range of months, and in each month is all the financial information, the profit and loss, right? The revenues, the cost of goods sold, expenses, and so on. And so I have a schedule that goes out month over month. I don't want to interrupt the continuity of that by subtotaling each year at the end of the year. It makes it very hard to copy formulas all the way to the right to expand the timeline and so on. It creates lots of friction in the modeling world. So what we want to be able to do is have an easy way to, in a separate schedule, quickly sum up all the amounts for each of those line items over that given year, or date range for that matter. The SUMIFS formula is going to allow us to do this in such a way that, and here's where there's, financial modeling, writing formulas in Excel, there's really an art to it more than a science. It's kind of both. It's one of the things I love about it, that there's an art to it as well as a science. The science is in understanding how to write the formulas and how they get put together, but the art of it is being able to write formulas in such a way that once it's written once, you can then copy it across and down and you never have to change a single thing. So we're going to show you what this is all about. I'm going to show you what this is all about right here on my screen. So if you're looking at my screen here, I've got an example of a very simplified, of course, profit and loss, right? So we've got some sales, some cost of goods sold, the gross profit, and so on and so forth, right? Now over here in the annual tab, I have it already done, right? Okay, video's over. Thank you. No, I'm just kidding. So I've got it done. What I'm going to do, of course, is I'm going to wipe this all out and then show you how this comes together. But you can see that I've got my revenue using the SUMIFS, right? And I've got all the other things. So it's very easy now, the way I've written this formula, to copy everything down. If I add a new line item, what have you, right? So let's take this whole spreadsheet and gut it. Right? I'm even going to gut out the categories here. We'll leave the years in, right? That's easy enough. Now let's come back over to monthly, and these are the things that I want to capture on an annual basis. So I'm just going to copy this range of sort of accounts and titles. Okay, and we'll start here, and I'm just going to paste the values. Okay, this is my starting point. Okay, now what I want to do is write a formula using SUMIFS. It's going to take, for example, all the revenues, and it's going to look at the year up here, right? So each column, if you look on the surface, it looks like it's just the alpha version of the month where it says, for example, January 2022. But if you look in the formula bar, you'll see that it's an actual date. I've just formatted it, right, under number, and we'll go to dates, or we'll go to custom date and time, and I formatted it to show me the 3-digit alpha version of the month and the 4-digit year, right? So it has the numeric value of the date, but for presentation purposes, it looks much nicer, right? So we want to analyze these dates and anything that's in the year 2022. For each of these categories, we want to add them up, right? So here under sales, right, this is just kind of a title. Here under sales, we're going to write the formula. Now, here's how the formula breaks down. The first part of it, so SUMIFS equals SUMIFS, open parentheses. And the help tips are great. You should really pay attention to these, especially when you're just learning how to write a formula like this. The first thing it needs to know is the sum range. So what are we adding? We're going to add up the sales from the monthly. So let's go grab that. And I'm going to start at January. Okay. And Control-Shift right arrow will take me all the way to the end of the range, December 2025. I always leave an extra column in there, and I include that extra column in the range. I'll show you a little bit later why this is so critically important. The quick answer is so I can insert another year's worth of columns without having to update the formula, right? So I'm going to hit Enter, and of course it gives me an error because I'm not done writing the formula, right? Okay, so let's write the formula again. We're going to say equals SUMIF, open parentheses, actually SUMIFS, open parentheses. Okay, and again, the first thing we need is the sum range, right? I'll bring the help tip back up so you can remember. So let's go there. We want the sales starting with January all the way out to December of 2025, and then shift right arrow one more time. We'll include this extra blank column in the range, then comma, and it wants the range criteria. So I'll just click up here in any of these dates. Okay, and really what I want is this whole entire range. So I'm just going to click and drag all the way to the right. For some reason, it's not letting me use my Control Shift right arrow. Okay, so I'm going to include the whole range, again, including the blank column, because the ranges have to match in terms of the size of them, right? So if one of these is shorter than the other, it's going to throw off the results. Okay, so that's important. So now we've said, okay, we've shown Google Sheets where the range is with the numbers that we want added, and now we've given it where the range is that's got the stuff that we want to compare the criteria to. Now we need to show it what's the criteria. So comma. Okay, so what constitutes a match? What constitutes the situation where we want to add something in this case? Well, we're adding up, if you remember back on the annually screen, we're adding up the sales for 2022. So what we want to do is we want to put that condition of, the date range up above in the monthly tab, right? The date range here has to be less than or equal to whatever's in the year above. This is the only case where the formula is going to be a little different, is in year one. After that, we're going to expand on it once, and then everything's going to be the same. So in the first year, all we have to concern ourselves with is the date up above in the monthly tab less than or equal to the last day in 2022, right? So the way we do that is we denote that in quotes. So in quotes, less than or equal to, close the quotes, okay? And then we're going to put the and sign. That's just the way the formula gets written, okay? And then I'm going to close my help tip here so I can see what I'm doing and click there. So it's and B2, and then I can close this and hit enter. And it gets me 120,000, but let's make sure that's correct. Let's click over here on the monthly tab, go back to the beginning. Okay, and I purposely set the numbers up for each year as a different amount so it'd be easy to eyeball what the right total is. So obviously 10,000 a month is going to be 120,000 for the year. We already know that's right, but so you understand a surefire way of confirming, if I highlight the range of just the sales from 2022, look at the bottom here, make sure we're on sum, it confirms it's 120,000. Okay, so we've got it done for the first row in the first year. Now we want to do it for the following year. So I'm going to copy it across, knowing we're going to have an error here initially. Okay, so initially it's got 410,000. Why? First of all, I have a few problems here. Before I copy it across, I need to hold some things constant. So remember, we've got two ranges here. We've got the sum range, right? That goes from B all the way out to AX. And then I have the criterion range, which also goes from B all the way out to AX, the sum range on row 5, the criterion range on row 1, all right? So before I copy it over, I need to make sure that I've got that whole range included. Look what happened when I copied it to the right. We're now starting in column C in both of these cases. So we need to fix that by putting a $sign in front of the B here and a $sign in front of the AX. Okay, and we have to do it for both the sum range and the criterion range. Okay, the rows we don't want held constant because remember we're going to want to copy this down eventually. Okay, and then the next thing is when we copy it to the right, we do want it to update to column C, so we won't put a $sign in front of that B in the condition, right? And we don't need to copy it down, but we'll probably never try to, so I'm not worried about that. Now let's hit enter. Now let's copy to the right, and we have 420,000. It's still wrong, and I'm going to explain why. Okay. So if I take the sales, and first let's look at just the second year, 2023. Okay, highlight across to December, and it should be 300,000. But notice if you take the 300,000 plus the 120,000 from year one, we're getting 420,000. What that means is and the reason is it's because based on this formula, it's looking at anything with a date that's earlier than or including December 31st of 2023. So it's including both years. This is why in year two we have to add one more criteria that says in addition to being less than or equal to this, it needs to be greater than or equal to the previous year's date, right? So a really easy tweak to this formula, because we're just going to take the same criterion range, right? So we have the sum range. That never has to get repeated. So we're going to take everything from here to the right. Okay, because remember the way this formula works is you have the sum range, then the criterion range 1 and the criteria, and then criterion range 2 and the criteria, right? So I'm going to take this whole bit and copy it because it's mostly going to be the same with one little exception. Okay, so then I'm going to click to the end, hit a comma, and Control V to paste it. But this time we want it to be greater than or equal to B2, right? So it's less than or equal to C2, greater than or equal to B2. And keeping in mind in the next move, when I copy it to the right for years 24 and 25, I want to make sure that's going to copy properly. I already have my $, so that part is perfect, right? We do want the greater than or equal to B2 to update, right? And we want the C2 to update. So it doesn't look like we have to change anything else. So first I'll hit enter, confirming I've got the right amount, 300,000. Let's paste it over to the 2024 year and check that number. Okay, so here we are. And we'll highlight, of course, across to December, 600,000, 600,000. One more time, 1,000,002. Let's go from here to the end, 1.2 million, right? So that's working perfectly. And as I said in the beginning of the video, the real art to this is writing the formula in such a way that it can be copied down and across. So remember again, the first year the formula is a little different. So you can't copy across ever from this year, but you can copy across from any of these other years to the right if I want to get into 2026 and so on. It's written perfectly. All I ever have to do now is Control C, highlight, Control V to paste, right? And the way this is written, if I highlight this whole entire range, I should be able to copy it down. Right, let's just confirm row numbers that might need $. So the criterion range, right, the sum range is going to update. We want cost of goods sold now to be pulling from the row that cost of goods sold is coming from here. And by the way, that's one of the reasons why I made it a point to copy and paste these descriptions exactly as they appear, because now the distance between them is exactly the same in both sheets, which is what makes it so that I can simply Control C, Control V, to paste it, and it didn't work. It's not getting the number, so now we have to audit the formula and understand why that might be. So the sum range updates to row 7. That appears to be correct, okay? But the criterion range updates to row B3. That's a problem. It needs to still be row B1. So let's go back, and let's go into the original formula, and I need it in the criterion range. I need a $sign before each of the ones on that one, and then remember I have to do it again here and do it separately because the formula is a little different. So again, $sign before that number one, before that one, and then in the second set of criterion. All right, copy that across, make sure that still works. Control C, Control V, still not working. And let's see why. Probably because of B2 here. Okay, so row 2 needs to be the same. Okay, in this case C2, in this case B2 needs to be the same. Okay, let's go back, because I don't know if you saw, but quickly when I copied it, it created an error in that all of them were picking up for the year 2023. And I want you to understand how to troubleshoot this stuff, because it's not easy. I could easily edit this part out and make it look perfect, but I really want you to see what can go wrong and how to fix it. That's the most important part of the learning process here. So we're looking at the range, and what did I do? I said here's the problem. I want the row number to be constant here in the criterion. But when I copy across here, I don't want that to be constant. I want the row number to be constant. Okay, that's what I did wrong. That needs to be constant, so now I still get a good result there. Let's fix this one. Okay, $2. Took the wrong thing out, so that one's actually fine. Now let's paste this down and then check our numbers. So in year one, cost of goods sold is getting $78,000. Cost of goods sold, back to the beginning, out to December, $78,000. Okay, the second year, 2023. $178,750, $195,000. Sometimes I pick up the wrong range, or I don't pick up enough, right? I didn't go quite out far enough. 195, 2024 should be 390. $390. Okay, we have one more year left to check. All the way out, 780. 780. This is working. So let's copy those down to get the right gross profit. In this case, I have a lot more confidence now that everything's working perfectly, but let's spot check 2024 for the gross profit. Okay, so we go down to the gross profit line, go out to 2024. And I've got everything highlighted through December, 210. 210, that works. The percentage we'll calculate manually here because that doesn't really need to be picked up with the SUMIFS, and of course we'll change this to a percentage format. And the fact that it's consistent in this case, because I wrote the formulas that way, confirms again that it's very likely to be accurate. The overhead, of course, I could calculate simply by, sorry, not the overhead, I was thinking of the gross profit. I could have calculated this simply by doing the math right here, but again, by using the SUMIFS, it makes it, first of all, consistent and uniform in terms of how this is built, but also it's another double check that you can use to make sure that the formula is working properly, right? I'm going to copy this formula all the way down to advertising. Should work correctly, but let's check it. 12,680,250 in year one. Out to December, 12,680,250. Let's check another year just to be ridiculously sure. Out to December, 16,103,41. 16,103,41. I almost thought I made a mistake because I forgot I skipped a year. So this is giving me a lot of confidence that I can now pretty much just copy this stuff down. Okay. And for the total, I could do it either way. I can add them up right here, but again, for continuity and to make sure all formulas are working, I'll use the same SUMIFS formula by simply, plus it's actually easier to copy that down at this point. Again, let's spot check this. I'm losing sight of the header rows here, so let's go over here, view, freeze, 2 rows, right? View, freeze, 1 column. This way I can always see what I'm doing. All right, let's check for total overhead, 52,654.96. And it might seem like overkill to be checking this stuff every time, but in my experience, I'd rather overkill than underkill, if you know what I mean, right? 52,654.96 in 2023, right? And we can even copy this down for the net income line. Again, let's confirm that we have a loss of 11,555. What was that? 11,543.50 in year one. Loss of 11,543.50. This, my friends, is why I stress how important and powerful the SUMIFS formula is. Look what you can do. Once you write it and then perfect it, and you're going to make mistakes just like I did, and now you know how to troubleshoot and correct them. Once you get it perfected to where it's working perfectly, you can build your model all day long in your monthly P&L, balance sheet, what have you, and then you can very easily use the SUMIFS to quickly total up anything over the range of dates that you need to total it up for. It works beautifully. There's a million more use cases for this, but this is just a really sort of classic and obvious one. As always, if you have any questions, You know where to find me. Post your comments below wherever you happen to be watching this. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, look in the description for a link. Oftentimes I have a write-up in my website where you can access a lot more information in terms of what I put in the write-up, templates such as this one that you've seen here. You'll be able to access this and make a copy so you can play with it. Whatever you need, you know where to find me. Ask me, and I'll be happy to provide you whatever I can as soon as I can. As always, I hope you learned something here. I hope you're having an absolutely fantastic day, and I look forward to seeing you on the web.